Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fantasy Crossover Podcast. I'm your host, Danny, joined here with my co host, Brian. And today we're going to kick off our 2021 NBA season fantasy player rankings. We're starting off, it's our top 150. We're starting off from 150 to 101 in today's episode. So without further ado, let's kick it off.
All right, guys. Hope everybody's been doing well. Really excited to share these rankings with you guys. So we'll start at 150. Coming in at 150, we have Larry Nance Jr. He ranked number 98 last year. From a fantasy perspective, he was on a pretty bad Cleveland team. He's now going to be in Portland. Surprisingly, he's a pretty good steal streamer. He averaged 1.7 a game last season. Likely will have a similar role in Portland. Last year was a pretty small sample size for Larry Nance. He only played in 35 games. He's obviously had a lot of durability issues, particularly a lot of hand injuries, which I think has been very interesting. But he's someone that is probably a late round flyer and someone you should look at if you're looking at rebounds or steals needed. We'll move on to 149. We have Bojan Bogdanovic of the Utah Jazz. He was ranked 125th last year. He's probably better in a points league than a category league. 17 points per game is pretty strong. However, he kind of leaves a lot to be desired with his assists, rebounds, and his defensive stats. Also, his field goal percentage is pretty rough as well in the lower 40s. So, something to keep in mind with him. For 148, we look at Dorian Finney-Smith. Finney-Smith last year was 129th. He doesn't offer much in the scoring category, but he does have an expiring contract this season, which I mentioned because even though he's a kind of an end of the roster kind of guy, he can probably give you a couple of threes per game and some defense that you can count on as well. For 147, we have Rui Hachimura of the Washington Wizards. He ranked just outside of the top 150 last season. He's coming off a so-so season statistically. His field goal percentage did increase over his rookie year, and I do expect and anticipate him to have a bump in his usage, rebounds, and points per game with Russell Westbrook now on the Lakers. For 146, we have Ivica Zubac. He's great for field goal percentage, 65% last season, and rebounds per game as well. He's not going to get you any threes, so definitely keep that in mind with him. He's not one of those bigs that can shoot, and he's below average for his position in blocks per game. He had less than one a game last season, and he only averaged 22 minutes per game last year. Will that go up? That's going to be the biggest question mark with Zubac in LA. For 145, we have Seth Curry. Last season, he finished 147th, so we have him slightly going up there. He's pretty much an excellent streaming option when it comes to free throw percentage and threes. So the guys that are looking at Luka, Giannis with some of those first picks, Seth Curry would be a great end of your roster ad, I think, to have. He's way above average in both of your categories. Unfortunately, he doesn't get much else, but that's something to keep in mind with Seth. For 144, we have Wendell Carter Jr. He finished 144th last year as well, so we have him pretty much anticipated to finish where he was last season. We expect him to be the starter in Orlando. He did only average 50% shooting as a big, which is solid but not outstanding. He might split time with Mo Bamba, who had about 24 minutes per game last season as well. He gives you about 10 points a game and 8 boards a game, but not much else. For 143, we have Nicholas Batum of the LA Clippers. Last season, he finished 122nd. We do expect him to be a really good steal streamer, as he has been pretty much his whole career. He's given you about one per game, but you need to keep an eye on the Clippers situation this season with what they do with him towards the end of the season as far as load management, if that's going to be something that happens. For 142, we have Enes Kanter of the Boston Celtics. He finished 93rd last year with a solid 60% field goal percentage, and he did average 11 points and 11 boards a game. Again, didn't offer much else. He did benefit quite a bit last season from Nurkic being out in Portland, but I think he's a nice big to have on your roster, considering he only needed 24 minutes a game to average a double-double. Big question mark for Kanter is going to be his role in Boston. Obviously, you have Horford there. You have Robert Williams there. So kind of where do his minutes come from is probably going to be the biggest question mark. But with the minutes he gets, he definitely produces. So someone to keep an eye on there. And then at 141, I have Aaron Gordon of the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, a guy that just benefited from a pretty massive contract extension. With the way Denver just paid him, they're hoping he finishes higher than here from an impact perspective. He finished outside of the top 150 last season. Likely he'll be the third option in Denver until Jamal Murray comes back. The pro for Aaron Gordon is that he shot 50% in 25 games with Denver. The con was that he only averaged 4.7 rebounds a game in those same games, and obviously he's their power forward. So you'd like to see a little bit more from Aaron Gordon there, and we have high hopes for him this season as well. At 140, we'll move to Danilo Gallinari. He was ranked 124th last season. Lots of depth on the Atlanta Hawks, I think, makes it a tough competition for him to get minutes. Danilo was excellent from the free throw line last season, nearly 93%, but his field goal percentage, assists, steals, and blocks were just not pretty at all. He might be worth a pickup depending on matchups week to week and depending on how the injury situation looks in Atlanta, but likely he won't make a huge fantasy impact on a really deep Hawks team. At 139, we have Josh Richardson, newly acquired of the Boston Celtics. He finished 138th last season, so we pretty much have him right on par. He's an excellent free throw streamer. Again, if you need one, finished 90% last season, but he did shoot 42% from the field. What is his role going to look like in Boston with both Schroeder and Marcus Smart there compared to what his role was in Dallas? I think that's really the biggest question mark for him, for Josh Richardson there. At 138, we have Jayshawn Tate. Last season, he came in at 127. He was a good steal streamer with over one per game. I would really like to see more improvement from him in both threes per game and free throw percentage. He made less than 1 3 per game, and he finished under 70% from the line. If he can improve on those two categories specifically, he could really see a solid trajectory into some more playing time with the youthful rebuilding Rockets team. At 137, this was an interesting one for us, but we selected Jamal Murray here. He ranked 34th last year in 48 games played. His injury that happened during the playoffs is likely going to keep him out until around the All-Star break at best. I've read some reports he could return in January, but I think that would be optimistic. We know what he can do. He's going to get you 21, 5, and 4 with really efficient shooting. Best case scenario, he plays 20 around 30 games due to the timing of his injury. If you've got an IR spot and the timing of his return lines up, this could be a really good sneaky pickup heading into the fantasy playoffs. So something to keep in mind with Jamal Murray there from the Nuggets. At 136, we have our very first rookie, Josh Giddey of the Oklahoma City Thunder. There's a lot of potential for him and an opportunity to get playing time quickly with Oklahoma City. He can be a point forward. One of the stats that I noticed at the NBL Australia that really stood out for Giddey is that he averaged over 7 boards and 7 assists per game in NBL Australia. So he's definitely going to be a player that is going to make an impact in multiple categories. I think for OKC, I think he's going to be someone who by the end of the season will definitely have sufficient playing time. We'll look at 135, looking at Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat. He finished 132nd last year, took a weird step back as far as his field goal and free throw percentage. He went from 47% shooting to 44 and 93% from the line to 82%. I need to see more from him on a really deep Miami team. Obviously, he's going to be a solid, reliable three-point streamer. So if you're ever hurting for threes and for whatever reason, Duncan Robinson is not rostered in your league, he's going to be someone to keep an eye on to help you out with threes there. From one three-point streamer to another, we go to Grayson Allen at 134. Should be a different role for him in Milwaukee than he had in Memphis. He'll pretty much take the place of Dante DiVincenzo if he does miss the start of the season. As you guys know, DiVincenzo tore a ligament in his ankle back in July. Grayson Allen's a great three-point streamer. He did average career highs in rebounds, assists, and steals per game last season, nearly 1 steal per game. If he can stay in that 25 to 27 minute a game range, I think he could have a nice fantasy impact while DiVincenzo is out. At 133, we look at another young player, Saddiq Bey from the Detroit Pistons. He was someone that did not make the top 150 last season, but he's another really good 3-point streamer to have. As a rookie, he flashed some good 3-and-D potential with Detroit. He does need to improve on his field goal percentage to really see a bump up in his ranking. He shot around 40% from the field in his rookie season last year. At 132, we have Joe Harris. He was 112th last season, so a 3-point streamer with a pretty clearly defined role with the Brooklyn Nets. You know what you're going to get from him. He made over three threes per game with 37.5% shooting. This guy, he's one of the elite shooters in this league, so someone definitely you should have on your roster if you're in need of 3-point shooting. And then we have 131. We have Malik Beasley of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He finished 90th last year, only played about 37 games due to his off the court issues. Scheduled to be back on time to start the season. He did average 3.5 threes a game and nearly 20 points per game. I think he's an excellent option to have, especially in points league for sure. He's not great at defense, not super efficient from the field. So those are the things you really kind of need to keep an eye on with Malik Beasley. But I would say for sure, probably a better option in that regard than category leagues. And then from there, we're looking at Tyler Hero of the Miami Heat at 130. He ranked 143rd last season. Obviously, he can score and hit the three. What you'd like to see more from him is more of a complete game, especially on the defensive end. If he could get a steal per game, that would bring him close to the top 100 territory. 44% from the field is also not great. Would like to see smarter shot selection from Hero this season. 129, we have Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee Bucks. He just missed the top 150 last season. He did see his minutes go down to about 20 a game in Milwaukee, but he did have one of his most efficient seasons of his career. He shot 52% from the field, gave you 11 points and 7 boards off the bench. His 3-point percentage last year was a career high 47%. If he could just get his volume up a little bit, it should be a really nice increase for his fantasy impact. At 128, we have the Eric Bledsoe of the LA Clippers. Really did not impress last year. He did miss the top 150 in New Orleans, but he did see a career high of 1.7 threes a game. I do expect him to see an uptick in responsibility going from New Orleans to LA now that I have a feeling that they brought him in there for a reason. I do need his steals to creep back up over that 1 per game mark. He was a little short of that last season for him to really make a valuable impact defensively. And then I'm looking at another defensive stud from college, DeAndre Hunter at 127. Last season, he ranked 104th in only 27 games. He gave really good overall stats, 48% from the field, 15 points per game. I'd like to see more threes from him, especially on a three-heavy team like the Hawks. He only made 1.5 per game, and I'd like to see him hit either a steal or block per game. He was close, but getting him to that level will kind of get him into that top 100 conversation. I do think Cam Reddish may eat into his minutes to start the season, as Atlanta might use Reddish as trade bait, so that's something to keep an eye on. And then at 126, I have Ricky Rubio. Finished 117th last season, had a pretty atrocious shooting season, under 40%. So that's something to keep an eye on. But he's going to get you good field free throw percentage. He's going to get you assists and steals, had 6.4 assists per game and a steal and a half per game. So great for streaming in that sense more than anything. He's going to have a new role in Cleveland as a mentor to Darius Garland, but he should still maintain about 20 minutes a game, which is, it might be more suited for him, might help him with his efficiency.
All right, following up, we have Montrezl Harrell at 125. Last year, he finished at 128. With Montrezl Harrell, you're really only getting field goals and points and rebounds. He shot 62% from the field last year, averaged 14 points and 6 rebounds per game. When you do draft him, just be aware he will probably bring your free throw percentage down, and you're going to punt threes. He shoots 0 threes per game and shot 70% from the line last year. New team in Washington, we expect him to have a very similar role kind of to what he did with the Lakers. At 124, we have Dillon Brooks. Last year, he finished 139. With Dillon Brooks, his scoring efficiency is really what weighs him down. Even though he had 17 points per game, he only shot 42% from the field. So with JJJ back, we do anticipate his scoring efficiency to be a little bit up. But apart from that, the only other stat that he's really worth noting is he gets you good steals numbers at 1.2 steals per game. At 123rd, we have another rookie, Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs was a stud in college with Gonzaga. He averaged 50% from the field, had 14 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 2 steals. We anticipate a heavy workload for him in Orlando, and probably going to be a great steals and assist option with getting a surprising amount of boards. The only thing to be noted here is that his scoring efficiency might struggle at first, and the fact that he shot under 80% from the line last year in college is definitely of concern in the NBA. At 122nd, we have John Wall. Last year, he finished 108th in fantasy. With John Wall, you're getting a guy that can get you points and assists and the occasional steal or so. The only issue, though, is he shot 40% from the field last year and 75% from the line. So he is very, very inefficient with his approach. And to be quite honest, with his health concerns, we don't know where he plays next year, if he plays at all, and how many games he's going to play. At 121, we have Thomas Bryant. Last year, he finished at 102. He got injured 10 games into the season. He tore his ACL, I believe. We anticipate him to be back and be very productive. He's a great guy when it comes to field goal percentage, rebounds, and points. He averaged 65% from the field last year, got you 14 points per game with 6 rebounds and 1 block per game. Just be aware that if you do draft Thomas Bryant, he will get you great field goal percentages, but he'll bring your free throw percentage down quite a bit. He shot 67% from the line last year, so you're definitely going to be punting that stat. 120, we have Kendrick Nunn. Last year, he finished 100. The stat to really note is that he shot 94% from the line last year and 50% from the field with 2.5 3-pointers made. He's going to be backing up Westbrook in LA with the Lakers this year, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can continue to be an efficient scorer off the bench. We just don't anticipate for him to continue having such a high efficiency from the line, but overall he's going to be a great 3 and just points per game streamer option. At 119, we have Marcus Morris. Last year, he finished 148th. With Marcus Morris, you're really only getting points and 3-pointers made. Last year, he had 13 points and 2.5 3-pointers made with pretty good efficiency from the line at 82%. With Kawhi Leonard being out, we really do believe that LA is going to rely heavily on him to kind of get you more points or more of the outside stats such as boards and assists. So we anticipate those to take a slight tick up from last year. At 118, we have Serge Ibaka. Last year, he finished at 118. He's probably going to continue to shoot around 50% from the field this year, and he's also pretty good with rebounds and blocks. Last year, he averaged 7 rebounds per game and 1.1 block per game. He's going to be a great option. It all really depends on how the Clippers are this season, if they remain relevant or not, and that'll kind of hint at how much usage he gets. At 117, we have Devontae Graham. Last year, he finished 116. His biggest flaw here is field goal percentage. He shot 38% last year. However, he's very efficient from the line at 84% and got you 3.2 3-pointers made last year and 4 assists. With New Orleans, we anticipate him to shoot his assist numbers quite a bit up alongside Zion and Brandon Ingram, and his steals will probably go up a little bit from 1. So if you're taking Devontae, just be aware of your punting field goal percentage quite a bit moving forward. At 116, we have Khem Birch. He finished outside the top 150 last year. With Toronto, we definitely saw his stats improve versus when he was in Orlando. He scored about 12 points per game, brought in 8 boards, and 1.2 blocks on 56% shooting. If he is a starting center for this team, we anticipate that he'll definitely be able to get you great boards and blocks. So depending on just his overall role in such an undefined team, he may be a steal moving forward with just his efficiencies. At 115, we have Kyle Anderson. Last year, he ranked 78th. He's pretty good overall. Just he's a well-rounded player, shooting pretty good from the field at 47%, 78% from the line, and he gets you defensive stats. The concern here is with the comeback of JJJ and them drafting Zaire Williams. What we anticipate some of his minutes being contributed to other players, and if he can maintain that efficiency, he may be a sleeper just to get you, again, all-around stats across the board. At 114, we have Jordan Clarkson. He ranked 109th last year. He shot very poorly from the field at 43%, but he did get you 90% from the line and over 3 3-pointers made and 18 points per game. Scoring is his bread and butter. He really doesn't contribute much outside of 3-pointers made and just points per game. We would like him to improve his efficiency so his field goal will go up. But we need to also keep in mind that teams are going to be focused on him since he's a six man of the year. So he may drop in value compared to last year. At 113, we have Will Barton. Last year, he ranked a little bit outside the top 150. Again, with Will Barton and just with any Nuggets player, we anticipate kind of an uptick early on in the season with Jamal Murray being out. Last year, he shot 43% from the field, so not great. He made 2 3-pointers per game, and he had 13 points per game on 3 assists. So we just anticipate upticks in usage overall across the board for him to be ranked 113th. At 112, we have Talen Horton-Tucker. Last year, he ranked outside the top 150. He shot 46% from the field and 78% from the free throw line and gave you about 1 steal per game. The Lakers invested quite a bit of money into this young player, so we anticipate for him to either be the starting 2 or the 6th man off the bench. And if he can improve his shooting efficiencies, especially from 3, and kind of get you more steals and blocks, he's going to be quite a good value player. At 111, we have Kelly Oubre Jr. Last year, he ranked 130th. He had a pretty off year when it came to just shooting efficiency. He shot 44% from the field and 70% from the free throw line. He did also chip in some defensive stats with 1.1 steals. We expect those shooting efficiencies to skyrocket quite a bit. Last year was a down year for him, especially in free throws. And you have to think that with LaMelo Ball feeding him the ball, he's going to get quite a few open shots and drain more threes. At 110, we have Keldon Johnson. Last year, he ranked outside the top 150. He was an average shooter at 48% from the field and 74% from the line. He did get you 6 rebounds per game, but really no defensive stats. With the departure of DeMar DeRozan and also just Pop seeming to have faith in Keldon Johnson by bringing him to Team USA, we anticipate for his scoring to go up quite a bit from the 13 points per game he averaged last year and for him to contribute more on the defensive end. At 109, we have DeLon Wright. He ranked 86th last year. He shot 46% from the field and 80% from the free throw line, but his main bread and butter was steals and assists. He had 4.5 assists and 1.6 steals. His usage may be down in Atlanta just because of how guard heavy they are compared to how it was in Detroit and Sacramento. But again, he's a great guy for steals and assists overall. At 108, we have RJ Barrett. Last year, he finished outside the top 150. He was a pretty inefficient shooter at 44% from the free field and 75% from the free throw line. He did average 18 points per game, so that was his great stat. But outside of scoring, he doesn't do much. He gets you 6 rebounds and barely any assists. The one thing we do know is Thibs likes to use his guys, especially his core guys, heavy minutes. So if he can get his shooting percentages up, he could definitely become an improved player and possibly crack the top 100. At 107, we have Kevin Porter Jr. He ranked outside the top 150 last year. He is an abysmal shooter. He shot 43% from the field, 73% from the line, but he did get you 2 3-pointers made per game, and he got you 17 points per game and 6 assists. The key here is that with John Wall potentially being out and the keys being handed to him and Jalen Green in Houston, we definitely see his usage going way up and just his fantasy relevancy overall improving. At 106, we have Dennis Schroeder. Last year, he ranked 107th. He was an 85% free throw shooter last year, and he scored 15 points per game on 6 assists and 1.1 steals. We anticipate him having less of a scoring role in Boston just because they're pretty guard heavy and also just scoring heavy. And we anticipate him shifting more towards being an assist streamer and helping out on defense, so possibly an uptick in steals. At 105, we have Daniel Theis. He ranked outside the top 150 last year. He's great for your field goal percentage at 54. However, he's a very poor free throw shooter at 68%, and he didn't get you many threes. He got you 10 points per game and 6 rebounds per game. And again, he's in Houston. They have a lack of players, so there's definitely going to be an opportunity for him as a starting center. At 104, we have Joe Ingles. Last year, he ranked 96. Overall, he's great overall. Decent free throw percentage, decent field goal percentage, and he got you 3 3-pointers made. Outside of assists, he doesn't contribute much, and what concerns us is with a paint clogger like Whiteside coming in and Joe Ingles off the bench, some of his defensive statistics that you were getting last year definitely may not be in the picture this year. At 103, we have Thad Young. Last year, he was 101. Overall, great field goal percentage at 56%. However, he's not great from the line at 63%. He does get you decent assist and rebound numbers. But the concern here is, again, he's in San Antonio. His role is not well defined. Can he contribute 6 rebounds per game and 4 assists per game? That remains to be seen. At 102, we have Evan Mobley. He's a rookie. He shot great in college, 58% from the field, 70% from the free throw line, and he averaged about 9 boards and almost 3 blocks per game. We anticipate high defense and rebounds. He's definitely going to be a rebound block streamer with great efficiency, but the concern here is his opportunity may be limited with a front court of Markkanen and Allen. And lastly, at 101, we have Ja Morant. Last year, he ranked 133. He was a poor free throw shooter at 73%, and he doesn't get you many three-pointers. But apart from that, he gets you pretty solid assists and rebound stats. And his field goal percentage we anticipate to improve. If you punt on threes and just aim to get assists and points, Ja Morant is definitely your guy. And that's pretty much our picks for 101 through 150. We also wanted to include some of our sleeper picks in fantasy, just guys that are ranked outside our 150 that we see potential to have an impact in terms of fantasy. So I'll switch it back off to Brian to just kind of go through a few.
Yeah, and shout out to some of our followers who have asked for sleepers. Obviously, 150 players deep is gonna be pretty solid. But for some of these deeper leagues where you really want to find that hidden gem, we decided to compile a small list of players that we felt could potentially be top 150 players in the right situation. We'll start with Chuma Okeke with the Orlando Magic. He was outside the top 150 last season, but his role did increase a lot after the trade deadline once Orlando did their fire sale. He did average 1.6 steals per game in the month of April, and he did have a couple of solid 20-point performances as well. He's a great on-ball defender and can hit the three. Considering Orlando's youthful rebuild, this is someone who could quickly get more minutes and a larger role in Orlando. I have another Orlando Magic player, Markelle Fultz. He ranked outside the top 150 last season due to only playing 8 games, but he's always a player to watch as a former top pick in the league if he can stay healthy. Perhaps Orlando can try to sell high on him, or they can try to use him in tandem with their new top pick, Jalen Suggs. Fultz's points per game have gone up every single year, as well as other stats. So there is a promising trajectory. We just need to see him play more games. He's only had 1 season out of 4 where he's played more than 20 games. So that has got to change in order for Markelle Fultz to really make to be fantasy relevant this season. We have also Monty Morris. He was outside the top 150 last season. He could see a nice role in Orlando, splitting minutes with Facu Campazzo. Likely he's going to be only fantasy relevant until Jamal Murray comes back. He might be more valuable in points leagues than category leagues, looking at his total game. But keep an eye on Campazzo, because if he does miss any time, this could mean a clear upgrade for Monty Morris's role with the Nuggets this season. We look at Kyle Kuzma, very controversial young player, ranked 161 last season with the LA Lakers. He obviously needs to take a step in the right direction with his field goal and free throw percentages. He was at 44 and 69% respectively. It'll be interesting to see if leaving the LA limelight will do good for Kuzma's career. He's a player who's been fairly criticized for not hitting his ceiling in the past. We got to keep an eye on to see with what his role will be in Washington to start, to determine whether or not he's someone that might be worth an ad later on in the season. Then I have Daniel Gafford. He was not top 150 last season either. He did look good for Washington, though, in his limited time. He's a great blocks and rebound streamer at almost nearly 2 blocks a game, and he's averaged nearly 70% from the field in his career. If he can get upwards of 20 minutes a game in Washington, he could potentially be a dangerous big to have as a late round ad or a waiver wire ad as well. And then lastly, I have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, another guy who missed the top 150 last season. We've yet to see him reach 50 games played in a season, but this to me is a great opportunity this season in New Orleans to break out playing with Zion, Brandon Ingram, and Jonas Valanciunas. He did average a steal per game and almost 2 threes a game last season, and he doubled his production from rookie year to year 2. He's likely more valuable in points leagues for now, but he's someone to keep an eye on as he looks it's going to be interesting to see how he looks with Devontae Graham alongside him in the backcourt this season.
Awesome. So I also have a couple sleeper picks. First off, we have Cam Johnson. He ranked outside the top 150, and the potential here is as a 3-point streamer. He did get you two 3-pointers last year on 35%, and he shoots pretty well from the line at 85%. We anticipate his usage to be up this year, so a couple more threes per game, possibly 3 to 4, and for his shooting percentage to be closer to that 40% range overall. He's definitely a sleeper in terms of 3-pointers made and points, kind of like Duncan Robinson. Next, we have Patrick Williams, another guy ranked outside the top 150. He started every game he played last year, 71 to be exact, and he gets great minutes overall. We need to see scoring improvements. Last year, he only averaged 9 points per game, but we anticipate him to be a streamer in terms of boards and defensive stats. Last year, he got you about 1 steal and less than 0.5 blocks. We anticipate those stats to be closer to 1.2 steals and 1 block and closer to 5 rebounds per game, just because that's kind of his bread and butter and what he feels comfortable with. Next, we have Isaiah Roby. It's wide open in OKC in terms of opportunity and potential, especially in their front court. Towards the end of the year, he was definitely taking more shots, and he shot about 50% from the field last year with 6 rebounds per game. We anticipate his rebounds to be up quite a bit from last year, probably closer to that 8 range, and also with improved efficiency and his scoring up from 9 points per game, he has a potential to just be a great sleeper all-around player. Next, we have Chris Duarte, who was a great 3-point shooter and just scorer last year in Oregon. He's with Indiana now. So he has a lot of potential. He shot 53% from the field last year at Oregon and 43% from 3. And he got you a couple of steals last year. The concern with Chris Duarte is, will he get the minutes in Indiana? They have a pretty crowded backcourt, but if he does, he'll definitely have opportunity to get you some points. And lastly, we have Aleksej Pokusevski from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Again, great opportunity overall, and Presti is very high on this young player. He can contribute across the board in assists, blocks, and when he gets more minutes, he definitely can be a scorer as well. The concern with him is just overall efficiency. When he starts shooting more, we need his production to stay high and efficient. So if he can get a great field goal percentage, shooting around 43 to 45% from the field, and just keeping up some pretty high assist numbers and maybe 1 or 2 blocks, he has a very high ceiling with this young Oklahoma City Thunder team. And that about wraps it for us, guys. This was, again, our 101 to 150 picks for the 2021 NBA season. For players, interact with us on social. We're on Instagram, Twitter, all across the platforms, and we are available across all podcast platforms, streaming. Brian, do you have any final words for our listeners?
Yeah, no, just don't be afraid to share feedback with us. If you guys thought we ranked someone too high or too low, we definitely or welcome that discussion. We want to hear your thoughts and your perspective, and we're just really excited to share the top 100 with you guys as well.
Yeah, it's a great kickoff. I can just said it any better myself. So the next couple of players will be out in a couple of days. So stay tuned, guys. Take it easy.